What's up, YouTube? It's your boys. How you doing, man? Just looking over some beats to use for my podcast introduction. Trying to switch it up. I kind of like that beat though. I might actually do a song with that beat. That beat sounds kind of good. But anyway, man, what's up, y'all? Another podcast. It's been a while, right? I'm apologizing for that. You know, I work and we kind of going through this turnaround thing, so we working like 2 weeks straight nonstop. So it's hard to get back and forth between houses. I prefer to do my podcast at this house because it's quieter, more room, less noise, less interference. So I prefer to do them here. This podcast, we are going to talk about settling and acceptance. A lot of times in life, people will settle for whatever they have and be content with that, and they accept whatever gets introduced to them in life, and with anything else, they just accept it and settle. Now, this doesn't just apply to like relationships, right? This applies to everything in life, everything with your life, where you are in life, where you're going, where you want to be. And I think for certain people, how they define success is based on their peers and not really, you know, the world or the country or the complete everything, not just what's going on in their neighborhood, right, or in their city, but in the world. What I mean by that is sometimes let's say where I grew up, right? Where I grew up, it was the thing to have a nice car and to ride around the neighborhood and make all this noise from your vehicle, maybe have some nice rims. That was the thing. That's what was cool. That's what everyone looked up to and everyone aspired to have, all the guys anyway. And all the girls, they liked that. So if you had a car and it made sound and you drove around the neighborhood and the girls liked that, then you were considered cool. So that's what everyone in the neighborhood aspired to have. Like, oh man, I can't wait to get this money. I'm gonna get this car and I'm gonna drive around the neighborhood and play all this loud music, and I'm gonna be cool because all the girls are gonna like me, and that's what everyone else does. And then once they have that, they kind of just consider that success. Like, okay, I got this nice car, but when you really think about it, is that success? Having a nice vehicle, riding around the neighborhood with sounds and everybody like looking at you and waving or whatever. Maybe some females are interested in you and like you more because you have a nice car. But is that really success? Or is that just accepting the situation and being content with it? Now, unfortunately, if you live in certain areas, that is all you're going to see, right? Everyone lives in an apartment or Section 8 or low income or whatever, and they consider that success. And that's just where they stay. They just accept that because that's based on what they know and based on their peers. Hey, if I got this house that I'm, renting or low income, then I've achieved success and I've made it. Now, to be fair, it is success, right? If you get your own place, your own car, that is success. But is that all you're comfortable with, just being there? Well, I got this apartment, or I got this low-income house, I'll just stay there. Or do you aspire for more? Usually when all your peers are doing the same thing, everyone lives the exact same way, there's really no aspiration to be better. If all your friends live in apartments and have a car, and you live in an apartment and have a car, then you're probably okay with that. And to be fair, it's not a bad thing to have an apartment and a car. If that's what you have, okay, cool, right? There's nothing wrong with that, in the grand scheme of things. But are you okay with that? Is that where you are okay with spending the rest of your life, 20, 30, 40 years in that situation, or do you want better? We tend to go off of what our peers are thinking or what our peers are doing or how our peers are living. Very rarely do you see that person that's able to branch out from that and say, this is cool, but I want better, or I want different, or I want different and better. This isn't where I want to be. I don't want to live this same way for the next 30, 40, 50 years. And that's where the acceptance changes when you don't want to accept that situation. But I see it all the time. A group of people that live in an area, they just accept a certain way of living and think that that's successful. Or even going back to the car thing, I know people that they have a nice car and that's it. I'm good. I got this nice car. I'm gonna ride around. My rims stay clean. I got this music. I'm gonna take pictures, put it online, and I've made it. That's it. That's just what I accept. At some point, I think we all should try to not just accept what we have or what we've accomplished, but try for better and more. If it's reasonable and realistic, if you're a millionaire, hey, if you want to be a billionaire, fine. But whatever you settle for, whatever you accept, don't let it be mediocrity. Settling for the absolute lowest or the minimum, that's mediocrity in my opinion. And this is not even on a relationship tip. This is just like life in general. If you work a job and they pay you minimum wage, okay, that's fine. But are you going to settle for and accept that forever? Or do you want more and better? Typically, over time, you should want more to make more money or to have better working conditions, typically. But if you settle and you accept mediocrity, then that is what you're going to get. That's how that works. Financial situation, job situation, relationship situation. How many times have you guys seen people in relationships that they're financially sound or whatever, and they have their house, whatever, but they just not happy. They're not happy at all. You see them and they just kind of exist together. Is that settling and acceptance for mediocrity? I think so. Because the minute you aren't happy in a relationship, doesn't matter what the person has or what you guys have, then there's a problem and it needs to be addressed. So do you settle for that? Do you just say, oh, well, we living comfortably. We got our bills paid. We good. I'm just going to settle for this and accept it. Or do you say, you know what? I'm not happy. We need to work. We need to fix this, or I need to move on because life is too short. And I don't want to waste time in a relationship that I'm not happy in. That's the relationship tip. We can take with everything. Working out. You work out, you reach a max lift or press or whatever. Are you okay with that? Are you settling for that, or do you want more? And the only problem I have with people that settle and accept things is when you settle for the absolute lowest and the absolute minimum, and you just accept it. That's when there's a problem. Because no one should accept the absolute lowest and the absolute minimum. If you're there, then you should try to go there and there until you reach a point that's not mediocre and it's comfortable and it's beneficial. So certain people who settle and accept just the absolute bare minimum, it's not going to add any quality of life improvements to your life. It's not going to add it. It can't. And that happens a whole lot. I see it all the time. People are just happy because they have something. It may not be worth much, but they just happy because I have something. Well, I'm in a relationship, so I'm not single. At least I'm not single. But I mean, is that really better? Because you're in a relationship, but the relationship is horrible. So is that really better than being single? Hey, I got this nice car and it's got sounds and it's loud and it goes around the block and people like it. Is that really better than maybe Ubering to work or catching the CTA? Is that really better when you really think about it? If you look at the cost of it, because having a car is one thing, but if that's all you have, just a car, you might be just accepting mediocrity. And when you're a certain age, if you're 17, 20, whatever, having a car that's top, right? When you're a teenager with a car, that's not the bottom. But when you're an adult, 30, 35, whatever, and that's all you have is a car, then that's bare minimum, in my opinion. Of course, these are my podcasts, these are my opinions. So you have to look at it from that point of view. A 17-year-old with a nice car is a lot, and that's all they have, is a lot different than a 38-year-old with a nice car and that's all they have. I mean, it's different. Because as you get older, you should strive for more and better as you get older, till you get to the point where you can live comfortably every single day. That's when you know you're at that max or that peak or that apex or whatever. And there's always room for improvement, but we tend to settle for less instead of settling for more. And I really don't know why that happens. I have an idea of why that happens, but I don't think that should be something that people do. You should always have a bar and set it, and when you reach that bar, hey, can I get higher? Can I get better? You know, can I improve? And there's always room for improvement. So when we settle and accept the absolute minimum or worse, then we are going to always be miserable. We're always going to be looking for the next come up or the next fix. We're always going to be wondering why or how can I. But to be fair to the people that are okay with that, because as with everything, there are people that are okay with the way they live and the life they have. Hey, by all means, if you're okay with it, then nothing else matters. But if you're constantly wondering why you don't have this or why you don't have that, or why this relationship isn't working and why that relationship isn't working, maybe it's because you're settling and accepting the bare minimum. Just a thought, people. I'm not a psychiatrist or a love expert or anything, but I just tend to use logic. And logic tells me when you accept and settle for the bare minimum, then that's all you're going to get back. That's all you can get back. You can't settle for the bare minimum and accept it and expect more to come back. No, you have to demand more. You have to want more. You have to strive and aspire for more. But that comes from you. And that's everyone. Sometimes our peers, we can only be in that circle for a certain amount of time. Because if all of our peers are turning up and going to the club and dressing nice, and that's the standard that they set, then how can you stand out from that if all y'all doing that? All your peers have nothing, but they know how to dress nice and go out and hang out and all that. And that's your group, that's who you hang with. How can you say that you're different? What are you doing different? But you're accepting the bare minimum because that's what all your peers accept. There's a saying that everyone's heard, birds of a feather flock together. That is so true. When people hang together, it's because they have one or more things in common. You can't have a bunch of people hanging together if they don't have things in common. You can't. And sometimes there's people who have nothing in common with nobody, and they just kind of hang with themselves, I guess. So another problem with that, though, that can actually be an issue is a lot of times one of the most consistent things that people do is pretend to be something they're not, right? There are people that will spend days, hours, weeks, months, pretending to be somebody they're not. They'll put more effort into that, into actually trying to improve themselves for real and be better. They'll actually pretend like it instead of actually doing it. And that has to be a lot of work. I think that's a lot of work, because when you pretend, it seems you have to take a lot of energy that's unnecessary to do it. And there's always somebody watching, waiting to call a pretender out. So why not just be real with yourself? Be real with everything you do, and then, hey, this is me, this is who I am, this is what I do, and just go with that. It's easier than to pretend to be something you're not. Pretend you have these things. Pretend you're going to do this. Pretend you are working on that, and you're really not. Sooner or later, pretenders will always get exposed. Always. Because there's somebody that knows, or somebody that's waiting, just lurking, waiting to catch them. So just be yourself, you know. Don't pretend, hey, I'm going to have all this, or I got all this. Just strive for that stuff. And what you'll notice is once you do things that your peers aren't doing, you're not settling and accepting the same thing your peers are doing, you're gonna notice that your peers are they're gonna drop off. Some of them are gonna just stop talking to you. Some of them are gonna be jealous of you, and some of them are gonna look at you and say, "Hey, you know what? Let me get on that. Let me get on board with that. Let me see what he doing or what she doing, and how they getting it, and let me follow, in their footsteps. Take some of their advice." That's just what comes with it. With success, it comes envy, it comes jealousy, it comes hatred, and it comes inspiration. Inspiration can come from it. But with all that being said, at the end of the day, you still have to do what you feel is best to where you're not settling and accepting mediocrity. Because once you do that, then that's what you're going to get back. And if you don't get back anything and you're scratching your head wondering why am I with this person that has nothing, that does nothing, that, I accept and just settle, but I expect them to somehow make me happy or help me grow and develop. That's just not how it works. We got to reevaluate that. What are we settling for and what are we accepting? If it's okay, if you can live with it, then fine. Doesn't matter. But if you can't live with it, if you're not happy, if you are miserable, then don't accept it. You got to change that. You got to accept more. Settle for more and more, and get to the point where you're comfortable. Once you're happy with yourself, then I think that's where the acceptance is okay. When you're genuinely happy with your life and how you live, it doesn't matter where you settle, or accept that as long as you're genuinely happy and comfortable, then I think you've settled for enough and you have accepted what you want. But that will end this podcast, man. Guys, I don't know when the next podcast is gonna come. I'm right now behind the scenes, seeing if I get this sponsorship from this company. I can't say their name because they still reviewing the video, but I will be, if it gets accepted, I will be putting them on, promoting them, and that'll be my little thing for my channel, just to help with the growth and everything. And like I always say, thank you guys for supporting me. Thank you guys for liking, sharing, subscribing. Really means a lot. I might have to try to switch my platform the way I do my podcast, because YouTube got this this new thing for the creators for podcasts. I might have to switch over to that format. It shouldn't change much, but we'll see what happens with that. And until the next video, y'all, be easy.